Ladies and gentlemen, councillors, will you please stand for the Chairman of West Northamptonshire Council, the Vice Chairman of West Northamptonshire Council and the Chief Executive of West Northamptonshire Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be seated. I would like to extend a warm welcome to you all this evening, my first meeting as Chair of West Northamptonshire Council. We'll go straight to the agenda and ask Democratic Services Manager to read out apologies received.
Thank you, Chairman. Received apologies from Councillors Lizzie Bowen, Karen Cooper, Gareth Eales, Mike Hallam, Rosie Herring, Nigel Hinch, Rosie Humphreys and Penny Flavel.
Yes. Any more apologies?
Can I add, please, apologies from Councillor McCord?
With there being no more apologies, I will go to item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Members are asked to declare any interest and nature of that interest. Oh. Councillor.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. I'd like to add Terry Eales to the apologies, please.
Thank you. Now to item 2 of the agenda, if there's no more apologies. Members are asked to declare any interest and the nature of that interest which they may have in any of the items under consideration at this meeting. Do we have any interest to declare? No. We'll go on to item 3 of the agenda next, minutes of the Council meeting held on the 16th of May. Is it the Council's wish that I sign the minutes of the previous meeting as a true and accurate record? Thank you. Item 4, Chairman's announcements. I have been asked to advise you that the fire alarm is not due to be tested during this evening's meeting. If you hear the fire alarm, please leave the premises immediately by the nearest available exit. Do not stop to collect personal belongings. Obey instructions from the fire wardens, who will be identified by yellow high-vis vests. Do not use the lifts. Do not access the car park and do not attempt to remove vehicles. Muster outside V&B on St Giles Street. A roll call will be taken to ensure that the building is fully evacuated. Do not attempt to re-enter the building under fire wardens. Say it's safe. Visitors who are not able to evacuate themselves must identify themselves to Guildhall security. I would like to remind the public that this is a meeting of the Council, not a public meeting. Members of the public have the right to attend and speak at an appropriate time. Members of the public are not able to address the meeting from the audience, and shouting out during the meeting is strictly prohibited. Members, you will have received an email sent on my behalf yesterday which explained how I intended to approach these meetings. I will recap the main points briefly. When sitting on the stage last year, I noticed that it was very difficult to see everybody. I therefore intend to use the microphone system to record who wishes to speak. This means no one will be missed. You've been advised there's not a need any longer to register and an interest to speak ahead of the meeting. I am hoping this will make the meeting more open and transparent and allow speakers on the night in the correct order as they press the push to talk button on your microphone. This will put you in a queue and I will call upon you to speak when it's your turn. While you are speaking, you will see a screen, a countdown, which is coloured green, amber, red. It moves to amber when there is 1 minute left. The Vice Chair will advise when there is 30 seconds left. However, if you wish to raise a point of order, the Constitution says to stand. If you are unable to stand, please raise your hand. Do not press the microphone. You should remain standing or hand raised, and I'll call upon you to raise your point of order. Once you've stated this, you'll then be able to speak. There are additional screens installed at the sides of the hall, so all should be able to see a screen. As we're starting a little later this evening, I would remind members that with their approval, I can ask for standing orders to be suspended to enable all business to be heard, and will gauge whether there will be need for this as we progress through the meeting. Lastly, I respectfully ask you all to check your mobile phones are switched off or are set to silent. If there is a lapse, it is customary, as you all know, to make a generous donation to the Chairman's charity, and I will hold you to this. I extend my personal thanks to everyone for their cooperation and appreciate the opportunity you have given me by appointing me chair. I look forward to serving you all. Before I go to the first set of business, though, it is with sadness that my first announcement is to send condolences to the family of the man found murdered in Semelong today. My condolences. Now to our first business, public participation. There has been one request to present a petition and address the meeting under this item. Mr. Manzoor has asked to present a petition in relation to Bridge Street closures. Mr. Manzoor, are you here? Would you like to take a seat, Mr. Manzoor, and present your petition?
Hello.
Okay, we have 3 minutes, Mr. Manzoor.
Yes, please. So I'm representing the lads, representing the Dishan Manzoor here. He is unfortunately not here. So the business we started in May in the Bridge Street was expecting the good audience. But in August, the building caught fire, which resulted in road closure. So it's now been 11 months, there's 2 times fire in that same building. And the road is still closed. The footfall in the city center is not as huge as it is due to the status of the city center itself. This closure affected the footfall to drop even further. So we have tried to reach out to the council several times in these past 11 months. However, there hasn't been any positive or constructive response from them. So we tried to discuss the points with other members of the council as well, but still no positive response. So we have not been given any business rate reliefs, which I feel that all the businesses at Bridge Street are entitled to under the given circumstances. So we have been struggling to make ends meet within the business due to the effects of this course. Also, we also urge council to look and invest to ways of attracting and increasing the footfall within the city center to help build the businesses. One way this can be achieved by reducing the parking charges, offering free parking to encourage people to come in to the city center. That's all from my side.
Thank you for your contribution, Mr. Manzoor.
Thank you very much.
There have been 5 requests to address the meeting. Next, Speaker 1 is Joanne Coolan, who has asked to address the Council in relation to item 8, report of the Cabinet Member for Children, Families and Education. Is Miss Coolan here? Yes, she is. I can see her. Right. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here in response to Councillor Fiona Baker's report on the findings of the recent Ofsted inspection of West Northampton Partnership. The report asks, what is it like to be a child or young person with SEN in this area? Ofsted found that children with SEN have not been prioritised for education, health and social care provision. Charlie, my 7-year-old son, is one of the many not being prioritised. He's been utterly failed by the SEN partnership. 3 years ago, he was struggling at Hackleton Primary School. Our concerns about his dysregulation, alongside his older siblings' diagnosis of autism, were dismissed by his teachers as bad behaviour. Suspended multiple times, restrained to the floor with his shoes forcefully removed, his ongoing trauma and abuse from the system caused our funny, engaging and loving boy to withdraw and live with anxiety, have incontinence and sleep issues, and he was failed by the school system. In June 2022, we requested an NHS ADHD and autism assessment. His first appointment is booked for the 1st of August 2024, failed by the NHS. We moved to another mainstream school in February 23 and we applied for an EHCP in March 23. Unfortunately, Charlie's behaviour had escalated and the trauma damage was done. And despite their best efforts, Charlie was suspended a further 7 times before his final day attending primary education in September 23. We are at week 69 of the EHCP process without a draft in hand. Charlie has not been in education for 10 months. To be home with him, I've had to leave my job as a finance manager, reducing our family income by £35,000 a year. And had the 20-week legal EHCP requirement been met, this would not have happened, failed by the EHCP process. Charlie was offered alternative provisions for 2 mornings a week. His needs had not been properly assessed and the provision not properly checked, causing a safeguarding issue, and his placement was pulled with immediate effect by the local authority. Had the SEN partnership carried out its duties with due diligence and lawful practice, this would not have happened. Another rejection for Charlie and another failed promise. Charlie had an EP visit in December 23 and a draft EHCP followed. This was poorly written, with only the EP's advice copied and pasted into the report. The evidence from his school, his alternative provision, target autism.
Thank you, Mrs. Coolan. Your time is up. Speaker 2 is Jennifer Crabb. You have 3 minutes.
This is my son, Sebi. He began reception in September 2020, and it was immediately clear that he was struggling to settle into the school system. I had suspected earlier, based on his behaviour at nursery, that he was neurodivergent, but my concerns were repeatedly dismissed. By the end of the first year, I was receiving daily phone calls about his behaviour, yet the school still refused to refer him for autism or ADHD assessment. During the summer holidays, our GP referred him and we received a letter from a paediatrician stating that, based on our completed forms, it was highly likely that Sebi had both ADHD and autism. Eventually, in Year 1, he received some accommodations and was assigned one-to-one support. However, the school delayed applying for EHCP until I took the initiative in June, and then began the long wait. At the start of Year 2, all accommodations were removed, as if he could outgrow his challenges over 6 weeks of summer holidays. By the end of September, he had received his first suspension. The one-to-one support was reinstated in October, and we finally saw an educational psychologist in December, well past the 20-week deadline by which we should have had a final EHCP. Despite ongoing suspensions and escalating behaviours, which indicated his desperate need for support. In January, we were told that an EHCP would be issued. I cried with relief, believing that he would finally get the help he needed. I was wrong. In February 2023, on the same day I attended a meeting where the school admitted they couldn't meet his needs, he was suspended for the final time. I had no choice but to remove him from the school environment as his behaviour had become dangerous to himself, staff and pupils. He was using weapons, his self-esteem was destroyed and he was deeply traumatised. He expressed daily that he hated himself and wished to die. He was 7 years old. I no longer recognised my son. The school attempted to off-roll us an unlawful practice. Seeking advice from the local authority led to more passing of the responsibility, and we managed to secure only 90 minutes a week at an alternative provision. I'd been privately hiring a tutor since the end of reception, and he moved now to a SEND specialised tutor who offered small group classes, which I funded myself. He thrived in this setting where he was understood and listened to, but
Mrs. Crabb, 30 seconds.
This equated to three hours a week. I had to put my plans to return full-time on indefinite hold. We filed a complaint with the LA regarding the HCP, and after a failed attempt at an independent school, I did the LA's job and found a school for him. I grieve the child that he could have been should he had not gone through this. I will never know that child. And I grieve how it's changed our bond forever.
Thank you, Ms Crabb, for your contribution. Speaker 3, Nicola Swindell.
I am here to speak about our experience of the SEND failings in Northampton for the last 11 years. Alston started struggling in year 4, and we wondered if he had had the educational psychology assessments and autism assessments then, or in year 5 or 6, like we tried, where would we be now? We will never know, as health and education never did assess him in these precious years. Instead, we were met with barriers, delays, waiting lists, panel meetings, and decisions being made behind closed doors. He should have transitioned to a suitable setting of his school, but he couldn't, as he had not been able to attend school for years. What did the local authority do? They refused to issue an EHCP plan. They employed solicitors to dispute our son's needs. After a year, they conceded to issue a plan, which was unfit for purpose as they ignored the evidence, naming an inappropriate provision that could no way meet his needs. That's what happens when you ignore information and you have long waiting lists. You get poor plans that are not fit for purpose, and this has all been documented this last week in the evidence. Northants West again had us wait another year, and this time they used a barrister and witness at our SENDIAS tribunal. This was brutal, it was cruel, and it broke us as a family. It was not a choice. These tribunals aren't. This is the only door left for you with an EHCP plan been finally finalised. His life has been absolutely changed beyond recognition for when he first started having difficulties, and still we struggle to get him any support as locally commissioned services can't meet his needs, and we continue to hit barriers accessing care across services. Years of failure equals harm, and none of this harm should have happened. We have heard responses and apologies from the Council and the ICB in the last couple of days for their failures in statutory services. It's no longer a secret that systems are failing vulnerable children. It's a scandal. There are hundreds of children being failed locally. As parents that speak up, we are the tip of the iceberg. The more complex
30 seconds
for the children, the harder to support, and yes, the more expensive. Typically, neurodivergent children are getting traumatised, as we've just heard, in our school systems. And you have to understand the cause to look at solutions and work with parents with lived experience openly as partners. We don't want to feel forced to complain. We're traumatised enough. We want to be worked with. Parents have been blamed when we dare to talk about the failings, blamed for standing up for our children's rights, and blamed.
Thank you, Ms Swindell, for your contribution. Speaker 4 is Kelly Thompson. She is asked to address the Council in relation to item 7, WNC Annual Report. Ms Thompson, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about systemic failures inflicted on SEND families and their children highlighted in the recent SEND Ofsted inspection on West Northamptonshire Council. You have failed to prioritise SEND children as a council for far too long now, which has been highlighted in the report for all to see. You have not just fallen short by your own admission, you will continue to fail more SEND children and cause suffering to families without appropriate actions. You have failed to provide effective partnerships to be able to coordinate the right support for our children at the right time when it absolutely matters. You have often inflicted stress on families, my own included, whilst having to wait and fight the loudest we can for your support. You failed to provide the timely interventions when needed the most. In default of this, you have made situations worse for the children that require support, often leading to crisis situations.
Excuse me, Miss Thompson, are you not addressing the Council on the WNC annual report?
I am. This is all. It has SEND in there, so item 7.
Yes, I realise that, but in the interest of fairness, we've had more speakers than we could accommodate and had a reserve list. So we shared it out between the SEND speakers and the speakers who'd like to speak on other matters. I will not cut you off where you are now, but could I ask you to wrap up, please?
Okay, thank you. Children are at home, unable to receive, often leading to crisis situations, worsening the child's needs and the well-being of families. Children at home unable to receive an education as there's no appropriate schools within your authority, or you fail to provide anything suitable that constitutes an education. Families being punished through fines because their children have barriers to attendance due to SEND and appropriate support not given.
Miss Thompson, are you carrying on or wrapping up?
What I would like to finish my speech, if that's okay.
As I explained, there's several speakers that have asked to speak tonight on various subjects. You advised you were speaking on the WNC annual report. I will permit you another 20 seconds to wrap up the report, then we'll take the next speaker.
Okay. Children are being failed through fines. Children are waiting too long to receive EHCPs. You cite a shortage of educational psychologists. But actually what you're doing is you're only addressing the new cases and not the backlogs. Many EHCPs are not fit for purpose. You're taking parents to tribunal unnecessarily, and you use
Thank you, Ms.
in
Thompson.
the process. Thank
Could
you.
I call the next speaker who wishes to speak on the WNC annual report? Victoria McNaughey. Is she going to?
On January the 6th, 2022, my then 7-year-old daughter went to school for the final time. She'd had a nervous breakdown. The thought of having to go to school broke her, and the situation broke me. My daughter was an undiagnosed child with autism, ADHD, and selective mutism, whose
Ms. McConaughey, is this going to be a 3-minute speech on the WNC annual report, or is it going to be on SEND?
I asked to speak on item 7, and there is about schooling in there.
Right, okay. We have 2 people on the reserve list. They both want to speak on the SEND report as well, do they? Yeah. Okay, carry on then. We'll permit. Right, okay. Excuse me, I will ask councillors when they are permitted to speak. I was about to say, Ms. McCaughey, as the other 2 speakers are speaking on SEND, we will hear you, but you will be the last speaker. Thank you.
My daughter was an undiagnosed child with autism, ADHD, and selective mutism, whose needs could and should have been met in her mainstream school, but they were not. Being in school had traumatised my daughter so much that she told me one day that she wished she was no longer herself. This evening I've come to speak about the S&D system, which alongside the health and education systems are failing children like my daughter. Systems that rather than reaching out a hand to offer support, slam a door in your face and make a parent feel like their child is wrong. Our precious children are not wrong, they're precisely the people they were born to be. It is the systems that are so incredibly wrong. Since applying for my daughter's EHCP in June 2022, I've sent almost 200 emails to WNC. many which have gone unanswered. I've spent hours researching how to navigate the system. I've watched webinars, read books, taken out loans to pay for private assessments. I've gone to tribunal and represented myself against WNC's lawyer and cried so many times out of desperation I've wanted to give up. Whilst my daughter continues to struggle and her childhood slips away. Every child has a basic legal right to an education, and that is what I want for my child. The whole process feels like a twisted game where you must keep on your toes. If WNC follow the laws, then children would get support quicker, but they don't. If WNC responded to emails, then children would get support quicker, but they don't. Due to the trauma that my daughter experienced in school, she would no longer cope in a mainstream setting and requires an independent therapeutic SEND school.
Mrs McConaughey, 30 seconds.
I should just read the end bit. My daughter wanted to share her voice this evening, so she wrote you all a letter. Dear counsellors, hello, my name is Amelie. I'm 10 years old. I love reading Harry Potter and have read all the books twice. I have a dog called Paddy, a hamster called Mickey, and 2 goldfish called Gloria and Steve. I stopped going to school 2 years ago because it was very noisy and busy and it made me sad and worried. I have autism, ADHD and selective mutism and I need help with lots of things, but the council do not help me and I do not know why. Every child, regardless of their needs, are worthy of being given the best chance in life to succeed.
Thank you, Mrs McConney. Your time is up. If we go now to the public questions, I understand that Mr Knapp has received, in accordance with the Constitution, a written response. Is Mr Knapp here this evening? Nape? No? Okay then, thank you. We'll go on to the next item of business, which is the opposition priority business. I will invite Councillor Bob Purser to move the motion. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. There's much to be welcomed in the peer review document that we received at the last meeting. So our focus from the opposition is on the challenge that the peer review identifies, the need for West Northampton to have a vision for the organisation and for the area, and for working with our partners. The point of the review that we disagree on this item is that it can wait till after next May's elections, and maybe it can, but it's more urgent than that, and we would want to suggest a cross-party initiative starting now to lay the foundations for next year. So I'm disappointed that this point is not accepted by the administration's amendment. The peer review confirms what I see as a weakness in our development plan, that we don't set out a clear vision for West Northamptonshire. We need to be clear about our strategic ambitions and intentions, and that's because of our geography. We are, in West Northamptonshire, a city region, an urban core and centre of business in Northampton, surrounded by rural hinterland, supported by Daventry, Towcester and Brackley. Services used by urban and rural alike require the size of population that only a city can offer. That's healthcare and hospitals, transport, local government, university, sport, culture and the arts. Now, we know on the margins of the area, people relate to Oxford, Coventry and Leicester, but I think that makes the point that we have to develop the idea of Northampton with the functions of a city and the primary town of West Northamptonshire. And we were getting there when we applied for city status, but seem to have lost the plot since then. I think too much of our time as a council has been spent with town against county, and people concerned that too many resources are coming into our town. This is wrong-headed and I think redundant thinking. We are a partnership, urban and rural, town and county, which are economically interlinked. We can't exist in silos. We have to get away from the idea that I think we inherited from previous councils about how little our council can do, to being an ambitious council, how much can we do? Now, I see British cities as complex organisms that work best when commercial interests and public services in the public realm work together within a democratic planning framework. My view is that in recent years we've lacked these three elements. Successful cities require vision, a rationale, a plan, investment, and the capacity to drive and deliver. So that is the challenge we have as West Northamptonshire Council. We don't do this on our own. We need to involve our partners and stakeholders, and including our local people and our local communities, and the process of democratic validation. We have to take our communities with us, and we have to create virtuous circles where we all win. In many ways, I think some of the building blocks for this are in place, but they're not yet joined up, making a coherent whole with a coherent vision. We need to develop more high-skilled jobs and more high-paid jobs. We need to take advantage of our national location and our regional location midway between Oxford and Cambridge, but without their overheated housing and land prices. We do have some serious challenges. How do we equip our young people to participate in our local economy?
Mr. Purser, 30 seconds.
Thank you. So I see the role of the council is in the development of that vision of partnership building, linking and facilitation. I think this is a role for the
Thank you, Councillor Purser. I invite Councillor Jolly to second the motion.
Before I second this motion, I just want to say how disgusted as a council we are not allowing those people to speak. I think it's disgusting.
Can you please
we represent
second
them.
the motion?
We represent them. They've come here because they have a need.
Your mic will be cut off unless you second the motion.
Well, I reserve my right to speak, and yes, I do want to second the motion, but I still think it's disgusting.
I hear that we've received an amendment. Copies have been circulated to members. I invite the Councillor Adam Brown to move the amendment. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There's lots in what Councillor Purser has just said that I agree with, but my amendment has to address what was put on the agenda in writing. And this amendment restores the context and the spirit of the corporate peer challenge to which the original motion speaks. To present the written motion in the way that Councillor Purser has, with cherry-picked phrases taken out of context, does a disservice to so many of our hard-working staff who have built the solid foundations of our new council and who are rightly praised in the peer review. For example, the original motion sought to extract the words persistent focus on the past, when the report makes clear that this view is that of a minority, and the very next sentence goes on to laud the attitude and the commitment of our workforce. That context matters. Furthermore, the original motion seeks to spin the mention of standoffs with some partners and ignore the fact that the report states unambiguously that partners overall describe relationships with the council as the best they have ever been. Members will notice that the amendments I put forward don't delete any of the constructive criticism or recommendations we received from our peer review team. We accept them in full, and crucially, we are already working to address each and every one. In some cases, we had already started before the review took place. But this leads me on to another point, which is that the original motion asks us to take actions we are already taking. And this could so easily have been avoided and a more productive motion put forward if our Labour opposition had simply asked us how we were responding to the peer review, rather than waiting for full council and then going in blind. They have regular meetings with the Chief Executive. They could have asked her at any time, and it doesn't seem from the written motion that they have. The Labour leader has an open invitation to have a one-to-one with me, and I think Councillor Purser knows that I'm happy to discuss any issues with him or any other member at any time, but they failed to ask the pertinent questions, despite having had sight of the final report for 2 months. So yes, there is a lot of red ink on this amendment, but we cannot allow inaccuracies and political spin to go unchallenged. Where that happens, we will correct the record and present an honest reflection of the facts to the public. I hope that in future, Councillor Purser and others will use the opportunities at their disposal to apprise themselves of the full facts and not be led into temptation by political opportunism.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I ask Councillor Dan Lister to second the amendment. Okay.
There we go. Thank you, Chair. Second the motion and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Okay. Could I ask Councillor Purser if you accept the amendment?
Chair, it is more of a press release than an amendment, but in that spirit, I will accept that amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Purser. If the amendment's been accepted, then the motion becomes the substantive motion and can be debated and voted upon. I invite Councillor Brown to speak. Councillor Brown.
Hello? Here we go. All right, thank you very much, Chair. So, growing up in Northamptonshire and being a resident of Northampton for some years over many periods of my life, this area has sorely lacked what other areas seem to get all of the time. You look at Milton Keynes, you look at other areas, and they have had a strategy for 10, 20 years now, and they have moved on and they've moved forward. And I've always been very frustrated, whatever council I've served at in Northamptonshire, that we've always been the poor partner to a lot of our neighbours. Myself and Councillor Rumans had a ward surgery that was focused very much on the town centre a month or so ago. And Councillor Lister came along and gave a fantastic presentation on the direction of our town centres within the West Northamptonshire area. And I've actually felt quite hopeful for the first time in most of my adult life at the direction that we're going. I think we've finally got a cabinet member now at this council that understands what a strategy is, how to deliver a strategy, what you need to do to bring everybody on board for that strategy to move in the right way, and knows how to manage a team and get results. It's not going to happen overnight, I understand that. I wish it could all happen tomorrow and we could have all those nice things, but I really do think that a lot of councillors here should take some time, speak with Councillor Lister, listen to what he has to say, because there's some fantastic projects in the backlog. What I do want to finish up with, though, is that we do have to do something about car parking charges if we want to stimulate the local economy, because we can do all of the nice things, but if we put up barriers to entry, we're never going to realise the potential.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I'd just like to clarify something. When you press the button, that puts you in a queue to speak. And then when I call you to speak, you don't need to press the button again. The mic is automatically switched on for you to speak. You only need to press the button to go in the queue. So next we have Councillor Randall. I invite you to speak. Could I take Councillor Jolly? I'll come back to you, Councillor Randall.
You have not amended the motion, you have rewritten it, so now it's nothing more than a pat on the back exercise for yourself, and we have stayed focused on working on the recommendations. Was there any need to mention respectful relations between councillors and officers, cabinet members knowing their subject matter? I don't know, surely that's just a given, surely? We all have the best intentions for WNC at heart, so I'm so surprised that the administration do not want to collaborate in order to deliver the best class strategy or to deliver added value as recommended by the report. If you stopped anyone within the streets of West Northants, they would tell you that there is a lack of vision, and it just seems that as a council, we're just merely firefighting rather than planning for their future. We have a unique opportunity to offer a vision of transformation to West Northamptonshire and its residents, taking everyone forward into a bright new future. However, the report states that the administration is constantly focusing on the past rather than looking forward. This attitude needs to change, otherwise we'll be treading water forever and not making a difference to people's lives like those ladies who come today. So we need to have a plan and a vision.
Thank you, Councillor Jolly. Could I call Councillor Brown, Adam Brown, to speak? Wendy, I will be coming back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just responding to Councillor Purser's opening remarks, as I said when I was moving my amendment, there is much that we agree on, and if he reads my article in the Chronicle and Echo today, he'll see that actually I speak of inward investment, high-paid jobs, working in collaboration with partners both here and elsewhere to drive that forward. We as West Northamptonshire Council now host and lead on SEMLEP. We're active partners in the Central Area Growth Board, which brings Northamptonshire as a county together with Milton Keynes and the Bedfordshire authorities. And through those devices, we'll widen that stakeholder engagement and create the environment in which our economy can prosper. I think there is a valid vision of West Northamptonshire as a city region, but at the same time always valuing our rural areas and our market towns. That is massively important. And you won't hear from me any sort of decrying of the investment going into Northampton. I'm proud that at the moment we have £250 million of public and private investment going into Northampton Town Centre in order to give that place a facelift, and long may that continue. As for Councillor Jolly's comments just now, I know she had her speech pre-written, but if she'd been listening to my speech when I moved the amendment, she would have heard that we are actually just adding the true context of the peer review. And if Labour want to accept the peer review, then they have to accept all of it. If they don't want to accept the peer review, then don't bring a motion on it.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Randall, can I ask you to press your mic again, please? Thank you. Not to speak, just to press your mic. Can I call on Councillor Sally Beardsworth to speak?
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I don't know whether to support this motion or not. It's almost sort of pre-written from the peer review. I think if we're actually talking about partnership working, I think we ought to remember that the first partnership that any councillor should have is with the general public. And the general public are, as far as I'm concerned, not always taken account of. As an example that came tonight, it's very difficult for councillors when a person is pouring their heart out on an issue to be seeing them being cut off when they're talking about such definite and these people have. I just thought it was a shame that it had to go that way. And the very fact we can't actually say to them afterwards, we will be looking into this. The other thing, partnership working, we've got the Market Square, which is coming along nicely, and that's a good sign of partnership working. But I don't know if it's a good partnership working for the existing market traders. They seem to be not taking into consideration. Those are the things that people want to see. On the doorstep when we were canvassing, so many people said to me, the town looks scruffy. The suburbs look scruffy. There's
Councillor Beardsworth, 30 seconds.
Thank you. There's lots of weeds in the guttering, wildflowers as well, but people don't expect that. They expect to have a tidy, clean town, and that isn't happening. So I think there are things that you need to do, and I'm sure you're addressing them, but as you say, it's not coming quick enough. And I just feel very, very sorry that the Labour have brought this motion and you've had to amend it, because this should be something that you should be putting forward anyway from the peer review.
Thank you, Councillor Beardsworth. Councillor Richard Salisbury-Timms.
Thank you very much. I personally probably will be voting for this proposal, but the only thing that concerns me is there's no rural aspect to it. There's nothing for the farming industry out there. Both Adam lives in Buckbrook, I live in Middleton. Northampton to me is a long way off, and a lot of us in the outlying areas, Northampton doesn't listen. So what I would like to see is a rural review and actually bringing the jobs in the farming sector into this conversation.
Thank you. Councillor Daniel Stone.
Thank you very much, Chair. I really welcome the LGA review. I think it's got a number of things in it that are really, really important. It's highlighted for me some things that have gone wrong that need to be put right with some urgency. I think silo working is one of them. So when you look at what happens with planning and regeneration, the two policies, the two strategies pull against each other in an extremely unhelpful way. And we are not meeting some of our very basic statutory requirements, as we have heard tonight. So for me tonight, it's been very sad. We've seen two examples of complete failure by this council. We've had homeless families with their belongings camped out on our front steps, and we've heard from the Send families this terrible, terrible journey they've been on, trying to get support and help for their children and being nearly destroyed in the process. Silo working is not working properly, effectively or efficiently. I think some of the blame for that is because this council has pursued a rigorous policy of outsourcing where they put public funding into private pockets.
Councillor Stone, 30 seconds.
And
30 seconds. Why have you turned me off? I haven't. No, it's because you removed it. The time has been set. Here. Paul's just reconnecting you. Could you press your microphone?
I'm on, thank you. It says in the LGA report that reserved and budget pressures are increasing, and it suggests that the council's appetite for risk has to change. I'm going to ask if that is going to happen. I'm going to ask if we're going to stop the outsourcing policy, and I'm going to ask if we are going to stop silo working.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. Councillor Emma Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have anything addition to add on the motion, but I'd like to ask the Leader of the Council and the Chair if they would give some vision to the lady at the back who was promised to be able to speak and now hasn't been able to, and she registered on an item. Councillor Brown, I appreciate it was the Chair, not yourself, but perhaps you could give her an explanation or even ask the Chair to allow her to speak, because she was registered and received confirmation she could, and she's been sat here before she goes to work in a hospital to speak.
You've made
so
your
give
point.
us some vision, please,
You've
Chair.
made your point. Order, please. Right, we have Councillor Richard Salisbury-Timms, who's already spoken. So we're not able to take him to speak again. Councillor Randall, would you like to press your mic? Oh, don't press it. She's got you there. Off you go.
Right. Thank you, Chair. Oh dear, what a start to a council meeting that we've had already tonight. It just goes to show really where our lack of vision is. You know, we've had people come here to speak tonight, and it is a public meeting. It is their chance to speak and for us to listen. And clearly, this has shown to me tonight that really we don't really want to listen. And this has been the trouble all the way along with our vision, because so many of the times we don't
Can
listen.
you hold on, please, Councillor Randall? We have a point of order. Could you state the reference number of your point of order? Could you state the point of order, please?
Yes, we're going to be talking about the motion, not about the public participation. I too have a child that's going through the same process, but I want to get home to them tonight and not talk about previous agenda items. Thank you.
Okay, I'll hand over to the monitoring officer to answer the point of order.
Yeah, that's a legitimate point of order that
That the Speaker is not addressing the item.
Yes. So the Speaker that we're listening to, or should be listening to, is Councillor Wendy Randall on the item on the agenda, but you are speaking about the holding of the meeting this evening. Would you like to speak about the item on the agenda? I am happy to take questions from you after the meeting and speak with you about the administration of the meeting, but would you like to speak on the item?
Thank you, Chair. Adam, Councillor Brown obviously did say that we do have an opportunity to ask questions. Yeah, we do. And we can only ask questions on what we know. What should be happening is actually you being open and honest and actually coming forward with us to help us shape the council. We're all elected here to represent the residents, and if we all work together, surely that will be much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. With there being no others, Councillor Sharps would like to speak. Oh, Councillor Brown would like to answer.
Can we address the point of order, please, Chair?
We have addressed the point of order.
No, Madam Chair, we have not addressed a particular point of order from Councillor Salisbury-Timms. That one has been missed. Could it please be addressed?
Could you stand up, Councillor Salisbury-Timms, and tell me what the point of order is, and the monitoring officer will answer it.
Yes, monitoring officer, your sheet tells me I'm a Conservative when I'm actually an independent, if you have a look on the screen.
The screen tells I'm told Paul will rectify that. If we go back to Councillor Brown, please. He's just rectifying the point of order. He'll be with you in a moment.
Still there?
Before you speak, Councillor Brown, are you speaking on a personal explanation because you've already spoken on this motion?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Councillor Randall named me, and I'd like to give a personal explanation. Thank you. Councillor Randall, I believe, has been emailed by Executive Support 3 times to attend a one-to-one with me. Those one-to-ones will be open-ended. She has the chance to exchange information freely with me and ask any question of the administration that she wishes. So far, we haven't had a response.
Thank you. I have no other speakers waiting to speak in the queue. If you wish to speak on this matter further, please press the button. Councillor Sue Sharps. I think we will take this as the last speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Adam, for mentioning the one-to-one. Myself and Councillor McCord did sit waiting for our one-to-one with you. Unfortunately, you didn't have it in your diary, and so you didn't turn up. I would hope that doesn't happen again. So just because you felt the need to really hammer that home to the Labour group, I thought I'd mention that. So I look forward to seeing you in future. Thank you, Adam.
Councillor Janice Duffy, this will be the last speaker. You pressed just as I announced the information before, so please speak.
Yeah. It says, deliver upon its plans and visions for West Northamptonshire. I'm just wondering where the bid is going for Western Fayville and the regeneration of that area, please.
Is that a question? That's wrong. Yeah. I think that's a question rather than debating on the motion. So we will now ask Councillor Purser to respond to the debate. Yes, please.
I'll press a button and I'll speak. Hooray. So thank you for the debate. It's been a bit muddled. I think the issue of regeneration of our estates is an issue that we need to pick up and look at within the vision for this area. It's missing at the moment, and I think those of us who, during the election, were out in our estates noticed that we got serious issues there, so that needs to be involved. I know Councillor Lister has an exciting portfolio of projects. My view is that the issue is joining those all up into a coherent whole for Northampton and linking that into our county areas. I was a bit sad that actually Councillor Smith wasn't involved in writing this amendment, because I see planning as having a key role in bringing together these various initiatives, and I think that's a weakness in our current situation. I agree with Councillor Beardsworth, we have to take the public with us. This is what our predecessor authorities lost the plot with, and we've really got to get much better at doing that. Can I thank everyone for their contribution for this debate? I hope this has just taken forward the idea that as a West Northampton Council, we have a real role in leading the future of this area.
Councillor Purser, 30 seconds.
Thank you, Councillor Purser. I will now ask members to take a vote.
Right, just press that and vote.
Remind members to push their voting button, not their speaker button. Thank you.
This one?
No.
Screen at the blue button where it says
Is that it? Is that all the votes given? Well, I think we can say it's all done. I declare the motion carried. Who was unable to vote? Just Cecile. Well, I don't think one vote will make any difference on 69 for 0 against and 3 abstain, but I will ask Paul to take a mental note of your vote. If we go to items of business now. We're on item 7, the WNC annual report, which is a report to note. And I invite Councillor Adam Brown to introduce the report and move the proposal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The report sets out more about the many services, projects, events and activities we've delivered over the past 12 months and how we've worked with our partners towards our ambitions for making West Northamptonshire a great place to live, work, visit and thrive. 23-24 was once again set against a backdrop of challenging economic circumstances and public sector funding pressures, as we, like many councils across the country, found ourselves dealing with significant rises in costs and unprecedented demand for services. Yet despite these ongoing challenges, we maintained and protected essential services within budget, while continuing to make good progress towards delivering better outcomes for all our residents. Supporting our residents through the cost of living crisis continued to be a key focus as we worked with community partners to distribute over £5 million of government funding, including food and meal vouchers, hardship payments, funding for food banks and larders, and helping residents pay for practical measures to reduce their energy bills. We continue to deliver upon our new anti-poverty strategy with partners, with 100 welcoming spaces promoting community connections. We also took further strides on our improvement journey for children's services, with our Children's Trust fostering service being rated good by Ofsted, and by developing a fresh approach to improving outcomes for youngsters with SEND. We have also supported around 12,000 adults a year to remain safe, well and independent. We continue to drive forward economic growth, turning £45 million of grants for regeneration in Northampton into £350 million of private investment, and making progress on major town centre regeneration schemes. And we laid the foundations for further redevelopment of our other towns. 23-24 also saw us prioritise our efforts for turning West Northamptonshire into a destination for sporting excellence, arts and culture, as we successfully bid to be one of the hosts for the Women's Rugby World Cup in 2025. We also progressed plans for large-scale live music festivals, which started this summer with a performance by James Arthur at Delapre Abbey. We continued our focus on protecting the environment and also worked hard on progressing our sustainability goals, partnering with local organisations to support and guide local businesses. These are just a few of the many highlights of another extremely busy 12 months for our council, and we'd encourage you all to read through the report to find out more about how we've performed over the last year. I'd like to give my personal thanks to all residents, businesses, partners and officers and members of staff at the council for their ongoing support over the past year, and we look forward to the year ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I invite Councillor Matt Golby to second the proposal.
Thank you, Chairman. Happy to second the proposal and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask any member who wishes to speak to press their button? I know some people have already pressed their button, but they've pressed it again and then knocked the queue out. So, could I ask Councillor Emma Roberts to speak? When I ask you to speak, by switching the button, you knock yourself out the queue. Councillor Roberts, can I ask you to press the button to put yourself back in the queue, but I will have to take Councillor Beardsworth next. I will take you when you appear in the queue. Councillor Beardsworth.
Thank you, Chair. Having had a good look at the annual report and having listened to the pleas this evening from the Sen families, I just wish there was a little bit more, shall we say, humility in the document, because we haven't got everything right. We've got big moves to do in certain areas, and we have to be honest about that with the general public. I think it's so important that we are truthful and say we are in our fourth year, coming into our fourth year, and we are still struggling with our SEND children and various other things. I'm not going to go through all of them because you know what they are. And what we want to do is to say to the public, you haven't got it right just yet, but you're working towards it. But I think if you had a little bit in there with a little bit more humility, rather than the, we've done this, we do that, you know, improving life challenges, chances, and then you've got safety and health protection of children, increased aspirations for young people. What aspirations do the SEND children have? You know, it's that sort of thing. And when it's been so prominent in the press, I just feel as though it wouldn't be a bad idea to say some of the things you've not succeeded in, as well as the other things.
Councillor Beardsworth, my
Thank
apologies. 10 seconds.
That's fine. I've said my piece.
Thank you, Councillor Beards. Councillor Eastwood?
No. Or Stone?
Oh, sorry, that's Councillor Stone, sorry.
Thank you.
You appeared on my list.
Thank you for this expensively produced glossy. I think there are 3 things wrong with it. Councillor Brown was talking about context. This report would have benefited with a paragraph or 2 looking at the context of West North Hants, where we describe what the economic issues are, what the social issues are, what the health issues are. We need a context in which to evaluate this report. That's one issue. The other issue is that we need a vision. So in the corporate plan, we're talking about thriving, being clean and green. We've never had the ambition to keep people safe. So those are the measures, aren't they, that should be looked at in this report. And that brings me to the third omission, and that's about outcomes. You talk about the anti-poverty strategy, but you don't give us any figures. How many children have been taken out of poverty in the last year?
Councillor Stone, 30 seconds.
We need annual reports that aren't just about marketing and promoting a failed administration. We need an annual report that's honest and upfront with the people in West North Hants, that tells them what the context is, what the job is that needs to be done, and the outcomes for the activities that are described in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. Councillor Wendy Randall. Don't press your button. You can speak.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Your vision is for West Northampton to be a great place to live, work, visit and thrive. And yet West Northamptonshire has some of the most dangerous roads for potholes in the country. We've got over 4,000 people are on our social housing list, and the new scheme still isn't fully working 3.5 months after it was launched. We've got hundreds of SEND children who are either not in the correct education or in no education at all. We've got people struggling to get to work due to poor public transport, particularly in the rural areas. Northampton has some of the worst air quality in the UK. Our waiting times for our planning department are one of the worst in the country. Public faith in this council is through the floor, and a glossy report isn't going to change that. We have given you plenty of ideas to improve things, but you've chosen not to and voted our motions down. But you obviously thought they were good ideas, as months later we see you introduce them as your own ideas. So my question to you, Councillor Brown, is how exactly are you measuring success?
Thank you. Councillor Jonathan Harris.
Thank you, Chair. Just a very brief comment from me. These sorts of reports, being of the nature that they are always going to be, shall we say, slightly on the sunny side. Of course, it's an annual report and it's going to look at all of the work that has been done. No one is denying that there are things in there that have been achieved and been done. What I would ask for is, can we please review and look at the KPIs in there? There are quite a lot of KPIs that don't seem to really resonate and make much sense in terms of measures. So that's a plea. I think we really need to have a review of those. And the second point I would make is I would really like to see a lot more detail on the challenge issues. We do have challenges. We know we've got those challenges. And again, I'm not going to repeat those again right now. But it would be good to see more focus on the stuff that we still need to get right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Janice Duffy.
Yeah, right, okay.
Do you want... Right. Could you... No, that is not a point of order. Could you take a seat, please? No. It is the chairman's prerogative to take what's in this. Could you take a seat, please? Councillor Duffy, can you go ahead and speak?
I'm referring to the report. I'm disappointed in the amount about the environment. In Talavera, there are long-standing environmental problems, Swanhaven Lakes, and also Fox-Covert Wood, where underage youths are terrorising residents. The police can't do anything because they're underage. Environment is so important for everybody, and I cannot believe that it's been left out of this report. The only good thing I can see is that the flood and water team are actually to have some staff. This is very important because the Wimpy development affecting Southfields very badly. And
Councillor Duffy, 30 seconds.
Very badly. It's going to flood downstream. Anglia Water agrees with me. I keep on putting in applications to object. What is happening about this development? And also Fox-Covert Wood and Swanhaven Lakes, please. It might be because of future developments at the back of Ling's doctors, but it's
Thank you, Councillor Duffy.
No excuse for such delays.
Thank you. I'd like to clarify the system again, because those of you who are pressing the button more than once are cutting yourself off, and when you press it again, you go to the bottom of the queue. As I said earlier, all you have to do is press the button to say you wish to speak, and then I will invite you to speak. You do not need to press the button again. So, Councillor Meredith, you are in the queue. Please do not press your button again. Could I ask Councillor Roberts to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I do just want to say that while I'm speaking to the annual report, we have a lady who wanted to speak and has still not been allowed to speak, and I find that unfair. Thank you, Chair. Now, in the report, which is the annual report, and it deals with children's services throughout the report, we've got at least 7 pages where SEND is referenced and where children's services are referenced. In 2 pages, we've got progress against our priorities, and 9 times children's social care is mentioned on 1 page, and on the next page, children's education and children's social care is mentioned 12 times. So refusing speakers to speak on a report where we talk about it that much is just absolutely baffling, beyond me. With the contents of the report, we've got 1,471 primary phase suspensions, and we're measuring that against trend. Doesn't feel very trendy to me, and I'm not sure what trend means because it's not documented further in the report. Councillor Brown's, just for the record, is indicating at me, but I still would like an explanation as to what that means. And if we can have trend detailed and explained within the report so people have got a measure to compare it against, that would be great. I agree with Councillor Harris, it's been incredibly difficult to look at the KPIs because we've changed the KPIs so much across the last few years. And over those last few years, as we've changed those KPIs, we haven't let the reports keep up with the measures or the ways we've changed. So it would be really good for us to get to a set of priorities where we stick to a measure and we measure that against historic progress. As we've said, it is going to be a glossy report. We are going to celebrate achievements, and there have been some, but we absolutely have to properly acknowledge where we've failed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Now, I am talking on the annual report on page 38, Children's Services and SEND Services. As I mentioned earlier, I do have a child in the process at the moment. So where I was congratulating this council because I think it has a strong vision for the town centre, etc., I think we are lacking vision in this area for some bold reform. My daughter, she is 14 now, she's just about to go into GCSE year, has been waiting for a diagnosis for 2.5 years. The teachers recognise that she has neurodivergence. We've been waiting for this to go through and get that diagnosis. We cannot get an EHCP while we're waiting for that to happen. We've been told that we must have an EHCP before we can get the kind of support that she needs to succeed in her GCSEs. I think we need to be bold. We need to look at reforms, things like provisional EHCPs while people are going through the process. There is some support there, some funding, which obviously if we don't qualify, it gets removed. But something needs to happen. The current system, the current process, how it's been managed, how it's been designed, is not working for residents, is not working for schools, because these children, such as my daughter, are disrupting their classes in the mainstream. What we need to do is reform the whole system, get ahead of it, put the money into this to ensure that people going through the process can get the support.
Councillor Brown, 30 seconds.
I am finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Salisbury-Timms. You've pressed your button again, so I will call upon you in a moment, Councillor Timms. Could I ask Councillor Dennis Meredith to speak?
Right, is it on?
Councillor Dennis Meredith, don't press your button, just speak, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Firstly, I want to give you 2 quotes. This is from Councillor Lister, creating a prosperous and thriving area. And I also want to make a quoting from Councillor Smith, making communities safe and welcoming. Well, I'm afraid I have not seen anything in Talavera. Talavera Ward is, as I said before, one of the most run-down areas of this town. And you expect me to vote for this? I can't vote for this. The Cabinet I've raised this over the last 15 years. The Cabinet have done nothing for Talavera. The grass on the verges is 6 foot high. We haven't seen either Verdi come round to do any pruning, nothing, no rubbish clearing. All the roads are full of detritus. I had a meeting with the Chief Executive and I raised quite a few interesting. She only made one point that was worth me pursuing. All the other areas I raised have not been done. And I am just about fed up with it, this council not taking these issues on for Talavera. It's a disgrace.
Thank you. I will take Councillor Sue Sharps next, and then it's Councillor Richard Salisbury-Timms following that. Then that will be the last speaker. So Councillor Sue Sharps, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate that this is a new system and we're all just trying to be patient with it. So thank you, Chair. There's a lot of good things in this report, as well as obviously the challenges, which I appreciate the challenges are written in front of us, and I think we should celebrate that they are here, and not celebrate that we have challenges, of course. But I agree with other councillors. I'd like to see more information on the challenges we face and actually how we are moving forward. At the moment, we have seen and heard a great deal from this council. We are working on a great deal of policies, and that will come into play this year, I hope. I think we all have to have hope, and we have all worked hard together to ignite, I hope, what will be West Northampton's future for this council. We can't be negative about this council, otherwise that carries on with a negative play for our residents. It is currently very negative in the Sen education system. I have many residents myself who are suffering a great deal. However, we have to look at the fact that we have money going in. That is the most important thing. We need to be more positive about this report, and I hope that what
Councillor
we have in front of
Sharps,
us
30 seconds.
will be shown to be a good report and outcomes.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Richard Salisbury-Timms.
Yes, within the report, I'd like to bring up highways and transport. We're looking at progression of the Northampton Western Relief Road at the detriment of Farvingo Bypass. Now, we either put that to bed and tell the Parish Council of Farvingo that they're not having it, or we actually make a commitment to say they're going to. It's either yes or no. The other thing is we've got no strategic approach to railways. My personal view is we need a bold approach into public transport, and one of the biggest ways to do that is to actually put a station back at Weedon. Not only will that serve my village as a way of getting to instead of Banbury, so we can actually go on the Chiltern line as well as the West Coast main line. So I would like to see going forward in the next when we get voted, or whoever gets voted back in, a bold view and bringing a strategic transport approach which includes railways.
Thank you. I did say that would be the last councillor to speak, but I see we have one more, but this most definitely is the last councillor to speak. I feel we've debated it enough, so we'll go to Councillor Davenport.
Oh, I mustn't touch it. Nearly. So I would like to say that I do somewhat agree with what Councillor Sharps was saying. Now, I've noticed on a personal level, and that's all I can speak of, is that things have improved. You know, things are getting better. When I approach cabinet members, I find them all to be very helpful. And we can get issues resolved, whether that is with the SEND children that have come to me. We've managed to resolve those, or we've had some difficulties with highways or with planning, and, you know, with children's services. So the help is there for us, but it shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't have to go to cabinet members to get things done. But the problem is, I only see what I see, and I find that the
Councillor Davenport, 30 seconds.
But I would like to say that customer service does need work on, which I've mentioned. People are saying they're like 42nd in the queue, and then after an hour or two, they get cut off. I do think it would be good to have one of those customer surveys that we contact them after their phone call to us and ask them how they found their experience. And
Thank you, Councillor Davenport.
Okay.
Councillor Golby, you reserved your right to speak. Did you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a few comments, and I just want to pick up on the positivity point from Councillor Sharps and Councillor Davenport. I don't think we should be afraid to be positive. I think the report lays out very clearly, actually, what our challenges are in each of the directorate areas, and I'm very proud of some of the work that goes on at West Northamptonshire Council, and we should commend the staff. Remember, when we talk negatively, we're talking about an organisation that employs an awful lot of very dedicated staff. I am proud of a lot of the work, but equally, I'm not proud of what we were hearing from the speakers at the beginning of this meeting. But I do know and recognise that we've got very clear plans to deal with those issues that we know are huge priorities for the council, notably the SEND stuff, notably housing and all the other things that we do and provide for lots of the very vulnerable residents. So there is plenty of context in the report, I think, and the point I want to make is we've got a whole lot of very dedicated staff working very hard to deliver some very difficult services, and I'm very proud of what we've achieved so far. Yes, we know what the challenges are, but we've got clear plans to deal with them, and we're going to move forward in a positive way into 2024, 2025. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I invite Councillor Brown to respond to the debate.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll just do a whistle-stop tour of the points raised by the speakers, and if anyone has any further questions or challenges after the meeting, then I'd be more than happy to hear from anybody. Councillor Beardsworth made a plea for more humility and said that we haven't got everything right. We never shy away from the fact that we don't get everything right, and we can't ever get everything right. But achievements do deserve to be celebrated, and they deserve to be celebrated on behalf of our staff, and in order to demonstrate to the public actually what we are doing with their money and exactly how we're performing as a council. Councillor Stone mentioned potholes. Item 11, Councillor Stone, some progress coming later in the evening. In terms of delivery, well, there's a whole section on outcomes in this report, but I take the point that various members made about KPIs, and maybe there's a collective discussion to be had about the KPIs that people on a cross-party basis feel that we need to be focusing closely on in the context of this report. There's a whole plethora of KPIs beyond what's contained in this report because we simply can't have an exhaustive list in this document. Councillor Roberts asked what trend means. It's the direction of travel, up or down. Councillor Michael Brown, I'd love to have a conversation with you, Michael, about the situation with your daughter, and I'm sure others would do likewise. Councillor Meredith, I'd be even more of an optimist than I already am.
Councillor Brown, 30 seconds.
Thank you. I'd be even more of an optimist than I already am if I expected you to vote for this report, but I hope that in the fullness of time we can win you over on some points. Thank you very much to Councillors Sharp and Davenport for their positivity and for their constructive challenge on all things as ever. Councillor Salisbury-Timms, Farthingbow Bypass, government say that it's not viable at this moment in time. We'll keep pressing the DFT under this new administration. Hopefully we get that done.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I will now ask members to vote.
The first one.
Has everybody voted? Any problems or issues anywhere? No? Okay. The recommendation is carried. We go to item 8, Cabinet reports and records of decisions taken. To give all members of the Cabinet the opportunity to present their reports to Council, I am going to invite all Cabinet members to present their reports in turn before questions are asked. I will remind Cabinet members that they may take up to 2 minutes each. The remaining time will be given over to questions. They can choose to take their reports as read and go straight to the questions if they so wish. But I would ask members to be succinct with their questions and mindful that others will also wish to ask questions. If we go to Councillor Adam Brown.
Thank you. As I stated earlier, we're members of the Central Area Growth Board in conjunction with North Northamptonshire, Milton Keynes Council and the various Bedfordshire authorities. At the last meeting of the Central Area Growth Board, we resolved to rebrand the organisation as the South Midlands Authorities and become a joint committee, meaning that we can take binding decisions on a small number of matters that work on a cross-border basis, such as strategic rail and other matters that have been mentioned this evening. Earlier this week, I was interested to receive a letter from the Deputy Prime Minister regarding possible devolution deals for local government, and I'll make a promise to the members in this chamber that any decision will involve a full consultation with members a full consultation with all members before a decision is taken on that front, in the full knowledge that we must take the best decision for our residents, not for any one political party, and we need to examine the full detail forthcoming from MHCLG. In more significant news, this week, West Northamptonshire Council has signed up to the UK Says No More campaign, a national campaign against domestic violence and sexual abuse. It works to combat domestic abuse and sexual violence, regardless of the sex of the victim, their background, their ethnicity, their social status.
Councillor Brown, 30 seconds.
And it has the support of a whole host of Northamptonshire businesses already. It provides safe spaces in places like pharmacies and banks. It has the support of our police force, our Children's Trust, and a whole host of other organisations. I believe that Councillor Harris and I will comment on that very quickly later in the meeting, but I hope that all members will agree that that's a positive step forward in addressing a hugely important issue, and resources already in place to be able to deliver tangible benefits against the requirements.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Can I remind members that we're taking questions at the end and not to press their buttons till all Cabinet members have spoke? Could I invite Councillor Dan Lister?
Thank you, Chair. My reports there is quite thorough, so I'll just pick up some of the points that were raised during the previous debate. Western Favell. We're under Leisure Centre procurement at the moment. As we know, we weren't successful with the Levelling Up Fund, but we're working out ways we can do that. I understand Levelling Up's dead now, but I look forward, maybe we can work with our new Labour MPs and government to bring forward something for a very deprived area, I hope. And Councillor Salisbury-Timms, rural farming community. We've done a lot of work on the Rural Prosperity Fund. We've put hundreds of thousands of pounds on a scheme that the last government used, put forward there to really upskill, scale up rural businesses. So I'll be happy to have a conversation with you on those ones particularly. And to any councillor, I think as Councillor Brown said, I'm happy to come and present the vision, the regeneration vision, to any councillor or to any ward. We did it to a group of members of the public. I'm happy to come and do that to anyone that they want to do. More than welcome to do that. If anyone wants to let me know. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. So just a couple of things. So neighbourhood plans. We owe an apology because we spelt Great Oxenden wrong, so apologies for that. Just wanted to touch on the local plan. Clearly, the consultation is closed. The policy team is now summarising and considering all the representations and identifying where changes to the plan may be needed. Further evidence-based work is underway on heritage impact assessment, viability, economic needs assessments, integrated water management plan, open space in HIMO study. Office is also collaborating with colleagues on economic growth strategy, light industrial demand study, local transport plan, local cycling, walking infrastructure plans, affordable housing delivery, the Daventry Master Plan, highway improvements to the north of Northampton, workshops with seldom heard groups, and of course there's the work underway to produce a draft settlement hierarchy and settlement confines for the rural areas. It's intended for some workshops for members to take place, probably in August. This is necessary in order to progress to Reg 19. A report will then be presented to the Planning Policy Committee. Further engagement sessions will be held in the autumn to help shape the Regulation 19 version of the plan. And then this next significant step will be the report to the Planning Policy Committee and then full Council. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Smith, 30 seconds.
I think
he's finished.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Fiona Baker.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I would like to offer my grateful thanks to all those brave women who came this evening and told us of their traumatic story, and no apology that I give will make up for the lives that they have led with their children, which I fully recognise as, like Councillor Brown, I have these children in my own family. So I think that probably you've all seen the report, you've seen the SEND report, so I'll tell you about some of the things that we're doing to work on the plan. And I agree with Councillor Beardsworth, it's very disturbing that it's taken 3 years to get to this stage. So our priority action plan, co-produced with all our partners, which includes our parents group, who also were denied the coming to speak this evening, includes schools, it includes the NHS, it includes 5 different organisations to go towards these plans. So we have put together this priority action plan. We've added an extra £1.35 million to our recruitment budget, in addition to a £450,000 to attract new educational psychologists as demand continues to grow, but we now have a full complement. Further to this, we're recruiting as part of the transformation programme and will be delivering over 600 special school places by September 2025. In addition, investment of
Councillor Baker, 30 seconds.
Was approved by West Northants Council Schools Forum to make additional help for the vulnerabilities in our children in mainstream school. I would like to just tell members there is another briefing on Monday evening for those that weren't able to come to the first briefing this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Hallam. Absent. Councillor Malcolm Longley.
Thank you, Chair. I've got 3 items in my portfolio. It's finance, assets and pension fund. I'm not going to talk too long on the finance, and that comes out of the next item. Item 9, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. But one thing I would say is that we've now agreed the final accounts with the North that were outstanding, which is a major event, which means that by the end of this calendar year, we'll be in very good order books-wise. Everything will be up to date by then. Second thing is regarding assets. There's a lot of items in this report. Anybody that has an issue they want to talk to me about, email me about, please do so. And that's the best way of dealing with that. Too many items. As far as the pension fund's concerned, what those that usually get quite bored with this, but those that don't know about it, it's a joint board, and please say there's some Labour members, Catherine in particular, across there, and Keith there. And yesterday we finalised last year's accounts and had most excellent year. The fund now stands at £3.6 billion. Enormous. That's and we're 147% covered, so it's in very, very good order. Thank you, Chair. That'll do for now.
Thank you, Councillor Matt Golby.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll take my report as read. It's quite substantive and covers the three areas of my portfolio, which is adult social care, public health, and now regulatory services. Just to assure members that I've spent quite some time getting to know the regulatory services officers and understanding how they work. And again, going back to my previous point, how dedicated they all are to providing the best level of service for the safety of all of us here in West Northamptonshire. One point I did want to make was to do with a report I received from Stuart Lackenby, which was published this last week from the Directors of Adult Social Care Association, ADAS, which was their spring budget survey. And I'm happy to share it with anybody that would like to see it, but it talks about the huge amount of pressures that are being felt by the system nationally, and we recognise them very much in a local context as well. So these pressures will manifest themselves through to our budgets, and I've already had conversations with my colleague next to me, Malcolm, on how that's going to look and what that's going to mean for us this year. But just the point is that these are huge pressures in all the different areas, mainly just coming through, manifesting as demand that is going to add a lot of pressure to us as we go through this current budget year. But on the whole, there's some real positive
Councillor Gilby, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm very proud of, going back to my last point, the carer strategy that we got through Cabinet a couple of weeks ago, which is a real good, solid piece of work. There's good progress on the 0 to 19 service specification that's going on at the moment that should reshape a lot of the services that will have a positive impact on things like our SEND provision. And in terms of regulatory services, I'm astounded at the work that goes on and the amount of money that has been
Thank you,
recovered.
Councillor Golby. Could I call Councillor Phil Larratt to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I'll take it that my report has been read and just add a couple of points. The new local transport plan, there was a successful and informative members' briefing last night. And can I suggest that Richard Salisbury-Timms drops into future briefings, because he will discover there's quite a bit of information within the document about rail that hopefully he'll be happy with. It will actually be signed off on Monday. Work on the North West Relief Road is progressing. Our works are very nearly reaching completion, with the roundabout on the Welford Road fully opening last Friday, and Persimmon have started clearance work in readiness for their works to continue to begin. We're nearly there in agreeing the issues with National Highways regarding the Queen Eleanor Junction, and again we've been allowed to book road space early in the new year. The Abington Active Travel Scheme at the junction of the top of Rushmere Road is due to begin in the autumn, and we're procuring new bus services as we speak. We are looking to provide improved services in the Dean's Hanger area in particular.
Councillor Larratt, 30 seconds.
We're working out the financing of that through 106 money, and procurement is currently underway. Hopefully the service will be operational in September, and in the meantime there is a school service being maintained. Pottersbury is already benefiting from the diversion of the X91, and I think your members will be keen to know that there might be movement on a new service to Brackley.
Thank you, Councillor Larratt. Councillor Rebecca Breeze.
Thank you, Chair. I've spent the last couple of months getting to grip with a whole new set of issues with my new portfolio, meeting new officers and understanding the issues that members are worried about. My report is quite comprehensive, but a couple of things I would like to just add that I'm pleased to report that following the inspections mentioned in the report, we do have new green flags for our parks for the 25th year in a row. It's an outstanding achievement for our parks and our rangers, but it's also, I think we need to reflect on how important volunteers are in the delivery of successes like our green flags. And I'm working with officers on how we can encourage volunteering in our green spaces and our communities, and in fact across our portfolio, and recognise the vital role that they do and can play. As raised by Councillor Duffy, flooding and a team there. We do have an excellent new flood and water manager, and he has now recruited an additional member of staff, and there is only one post to fill in that area. My report mentions the local nature recovery strategy, which is being led by WNC. This is an important document and will include practical and achievable proposals to arrest the decline in biodiversity and assist the recovery of species populations across our area, working with people who know and understand their areas. In September, we will be presenting a member briefing on the local nature recovery strategy, followed by, if there's interest, a series of site
Councillor Breeze, 30 seconds.
So that members can actually see in action what this is all about. There'll be more information on that in due course, so keep an eye on your calendars. And finally, yesterday I was very pleased to attend with Councillor Baker the unveiling of a new willow sculpture in Daventry Country Park, and what a wonderful thing it is. It's a result of a competition held in our primary schools to reflect Children's Mental Health Week. 2 children won, and a very clever artist amalgamated their
Thank you, Councillor Breeze. Councillor Rosie Herring.
Not here.
Not here. Okay, I will ask for you all to press your buttons if you wish to speak. When you speak, can you state which Cabinet member you are addressing your question to? Can I remind everybody, they just need to press the button once, it's on green. Paul will turn it to red for you to speak. So the first councillor I ask to speak is Councillor Sally Beardsworth.
Thank you, Chair. Nearly pressed it then. Goodness me, such a habit. Can I ask some questions of Councillor Dan Lister, please? In your report, you mentioned that the IBG team have welcomed a Chinese delegation for investment in West North Hants. I'd like to know what that is. Secondly, supporting local employment. How are we treating the market traders to get their pitches back where they want them to be? And are they happy with the situation? And libraries. We would love to have the opportunity to have the library open in Kingsthorpe for the children of Kingsthorpe and St David's to go to the reading clubs that are going on. But unfortunately, it's still dragging its heels and we still haven't had the lease to sign. We're still waiting for work to be completed. And when we started this, the chair of the parish council had just given birth. Her daughter's going to school in September. So
Councillor Beardsworth, 30 seconds.
And I would like to know if there's any possibility that we can accelerate that work to actually make sure the people of Kingsthorpe and St David's can get a library again. They're desperate for it.
Thank you. I'd just like to defer with the monitoring officer for a moment. Can I just pause the meeting for a moment while Paul tests something technically? Who was that question for? Which Cabinet member? Yeah. Okay, you can speak.
Yep, certainly. Chinese delegation was part of the Chinese Business Forum that I think Andre might be quite happy to answer because Councillor de Savage, if he's here, I think he is. Yep, I can see him. Might like to add some more context too. So we were there supporting that. Supporting local employment, the traders. So we followed a very specific and agreed policy on this, which covered up until the end of the last day of trading at the current market, so to not disadvantage any traders that were put out of business when we moved them to commercial streets. So that process has been fully followed. As far as I know, there has been one query to the Chief Executive, which has been answered. Kingsthorpe Library, happy, please send me an email and let's have a chat and see what we can do and get it moving. Happily help on that one.
Thank you. Councillor Muna-Cali, please.
Yes, thank you. My question is for Councillor Larrard. Following the Council's review on, of the Voi e-scooters, the Voi has developed technologies to eliminate multi-user riding and pavement riding, which is extremely dangerous. Why is it then that the public and I see 2 or 3 people riding on them still on the pavement 5 months later? Are you holding them properly to account?
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We did have a scrutiny review into the Voi scooters. There were recommendations that have come out of that, which talk about continual monitoring and how we will deal with things if they do not improve. All I can say is that we need to know. I still see people riding around on 2-up on them. I still see people riding on the pavement. There are issues that they're supposed to be, technical issues that they're supposed to be developing to resolve the problems. Yes, I still get complaints about the abandonment, and I don't say parking, abandonment of these scooters. And we've made it very clear that unless Voi do address these things, we will take action and terminate the arrangement. And if you provide the evidence, anybody in this room can provide the evidence that the rules aren't being complied with, I will have no hesitation in kicking off that termination process. People of Northampton, to great extent, have had enough, particularly of the parking issues. And I think it's time that we get tough with them. And let's get tough now. But please, give us the evidence.
Councillor Keith Holland-Dallamere.
So questions to Malcolm. So thank you for your report. Just wanted to highlight the ongoing issues with staff and pressures within the Revs and Benefits team, especially with the system changes. I recognise the hard work of the team. My question is about the backlogs. How long do you think it will take to clear the backlogs, in particular on housing benefits? I had a recent case where it had a severe impact on a housing issue because of those delays. And the other question I've got is about the asset management team. There's a lot of drip from the asset team about projects, etc. May I suggest the administration organise a briefing for all members to outline the strategy and the broad scope of projects being considered by the assets team, rather than this drip, last-minute approach to revealing your vision? Thank you.
Thank you. Just connecting you, Malcolm. Off you go.
See, it's only a matter of time. Okay, I got the button right eventually. Yeah, thanks, Keith. Right, as far as the assets team is concerned, there's a lot going on, terrific amount going on, as you can see. Very pleased to do that. All good ideas were gratefully received on this as well. And I'll contact you and we'll set something up. No problem with that at all. With regard to where are we talking about there, really? What are we talking about there? Oh, no, we're not talking about how we dealt with the assets. Yeah. Sorry, I missed your point there, Keith. What was that? Oh, Revs and Benefits. Yeah, of course it was. Yeah, that's going through quite a considerable change, has been since we started. If you want a candid view, I think, well, we won't get it right until probably the back end of the year. That would be. But it's an improvement. There won't be any like that. It'll take time. And, there's lots of new systems going in, as you know, and there have been. But I would be quite wrong to kid you on that it would be a quick fix. It isn't. So I'd work on that sort of timescale. If it changes to the detriment, I will let you know. I'll keep on top of that. Okay.
Councillor Janice Duffy.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. This is about to Adam Brown, Councillor Adam Brown. It's a bad decision, and you've agreed to Adam, that the one-stop shop moving from the Guildhall to One Angel Square. As leader, are you now backing the plan? And are you ensuring the move will not affect the ability of the elderly or disabled in accessing council services? Has an equalities impact assessment been carried out as previously asked for? The gradient to One Angel Square is very steep. There was a free taxi service running between the bus station and a nearby location. Is that still ongoing? I've researched, and people are having to walk 15 minutes now to get to OAS. The communication with residents, especially in the Eastern District, is at an all-time low, and in communications concerning people's problems at the one-stop shop should be
Councillor
improved.
Duffy, 30 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to Councillor Duffy for her questions. The accessibility issues around the proposed new location for the one-stop shop are concerning. There are factors that we really do have to take into account in the most serious fashion. And so an equalities impact assessment will be carried out. I don't know of the progress of that assessment at this stage, but I'll update you as soon as I can on that. If there are mitigations that we need to put in place to protect the elderly and the vulnerable in accessing the facility, should it go ahead, then of course we'll make sure that those mitigations are in place. But I recognise her concerns and she's right to raise them.
Thank you. Councillor Winston Strachan.
Thank you, Chair. I've got 3 questions on 3 different portfolio holders. First one is Councillor Longley on pest control. In terms of pest control, Northampton residents are appalled at the fact that this council contract only supports Daventry residents. Is the pest control contract referred to in your paper includes all of WNC? And if not, why not? To Councillor Larratt, Active Travel Park Avenue, Rushmere Road, Billing Road. I am sure that Councillor Larratt will agree this is an extremely busy area during peak time. My question is, how long is the actual contract estimated to last from start to finish? And finally, Councillor Braze, litter and street cleaning. While I appreciate the continuing partnership work with the Wombles, there are nothing in the report that will help improve the plight of residents in Semilon and Kingsley. Chairman, at the moment, we have an environmental officer to cover Northampton Town Centre, Castle Ward, Semilon and Kingsley Ward, Darlington and Spencer, and it also includes Kingsley.
Councillor Strachan, 30 seconds.
Chairman, when in heaven's name would we have a dedicated environmental officer for at least each ward in Northampton? Also, how soon could we have litter boxes with lids to reduce litter due to spillage by animal, birds, and gust of winds on bin day? Also, update please on CCTV installation. Thank you.
Thank you. That was to Councillor Breeze.
Oh, thank you. Okay, third last. Councillor Strachan, on your first question, could you put that just in an email to me so I'm absolutely clear what you're asking, which I think is about the number of environmental services officers actually doing street cleansing and litter picking. Is that correct? Yeah, okay, thank you. If you could do that, I'd be happy to answer it. On the litter boxes, I'm aware that that's a big issue and something that I'm working with officers on. At the moment, we are meeting a bit of resistance, but we are pushing very hard to get those in place as soon as possible, and I see that as a priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jonathan Harris.
Thank you, Chair. I've actually got 4 questions, but I will email Cabinet members 3 of them. So 3 of you are going to get off lucky tonight, but please do answer when the email comes in. So my question I'm choosing tonight is for Councillor Golby. Councillor Golby, you talk about a suicide prevention strategy, and I'm interested if you could advise on what specific actions and engagement have taken place with schools, whether they be academy or otherwise. I have a tragic case in my area of a family who've lost a young person, sadly, to suicide. I have arranged a meeting with the Director of Public Health in a few weeks' time to discuss her thoughts and views, because I think it's very important that we engage with parents who've suffered such a tragedy. So I just wondered whether you could advise what's actually been done from a consultation point of view with schools or academies. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Golby? I think I have a point of order here first, so please. Yes, I think I did make a mistake and I apologise for that. So I will go to the other 2 councillors in a moment. Please accept my sincere apologies. But if we answer Councillor Jonathan Harris's question first to Matt Golby.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the question. We have, in my opinion, a very good suicide prevention steering group that is a cross-agency group that meets quite regularly, and I've been attending some of the meetings. In fact, there was a workshop today on male suicide prevention, which is there's a higher prevalence within the people that take their own lives, working on that area. In particular, to your question around schools, though, I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I will check that and come back to you, Councillor Harris, if I can. Thank you.
If we go to Councillor Larratt.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just in response to Councillor Strachan's question to myself, the Abington Active Travel scheme, we are actually phasing that, and the first phase is to be the junction at the top of Rushmere Road with Billing Road East and Park Avenue South. That will works for that are currently being developed, actual technical drawings, and we're going out to tender with a view to starting those works in October. Hopefully it won't be too long a contract, but we want to ensure that there's no works taking place during disruption over Christmas, but I'm hoping it will be completed by then. Obviously, we've got to look at what's under the ground, and that may have impact on how we do things. But yeah, hopefully that junction will be done very quickly, and I think it's going to be subject to an event with ward members.
Thank you. I now go to point of order. Yes, I have seen the systems knocked you out, and I'm adding you to the list, if that was your point of order. Well, Councillor? Yeah.
Me and others out. I've no idea what the constitutional point is, but I was next on the list and now I'm not. So.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I have another point of order. Yes, I have. Paul has taken a note of those that have been knocked out of the list and is there to add them on afterwards. If I go to Councillor Jolly, please.
Thank you, Chair. My questions are to Councillor Lister. Obviously, I'm sure that you've seen the article on the Crom with regards to the existing trader who's feel kind of mistreated. What I would like to find out is the selection process, because at the moment it just seems someone who's been hardworking, dedicated and loyal to the market has been disregarded to having a stall which they really want. On the way to the meeting, I did walk around the market and it actually looks really good. Obviously, we've overspent. I just really want to know that overspend of 3.5 million is coming from community infrastructure levy.
Councillor Jolly, 30 seconds.
No problems. Can you tell me from which developments across West Northants that has come from, and also the completion date. I've seen a couple. It wasn't supposed to be the end of August, now it's September. I've also seen October. Can you just confirm that? Thank you.
Councillor Lister.
Thank you, Councillor Jolly. Trader selection process, I think I've already answered that question to Councillor Beardsworth already, but if you want to send that over, I'll happily send you the policy over. The overspend, it still comes from multiple developments. Again, if you want to send that over, we can ask someone in probably planning to put that one together, because it's not something that we have control of. Completion date, we've never put a completion date as a fixed date. We've always said late summer. 20th of September is the date the traders will be returning. There's a small portion at the back end that's going to be closed off, which is to do with the fountain, which will be open a couple of weeks later in October.
Thank you. I will now invite Councillor Roberts to speak.
Thank you, Chair. So I did have questions for on housing and for Councillor Hallam, but I'll email those in because they're not here. I've got a question for Fiona, specifically around backlog of SEND cases. So we heard from folks earlier who have waited a very long time for their EHCP. I know you know that. I could say lots tonight about the report and the conduct. I think this has been one of the worst meetings I've ever been in, that's been presided over, where members of the public have literally been dismissed from speaking. A speaker who was registered hasn't been allowed. So absolutely awful. But the question directly to you is about the backlog. I did ask it on the briefing the other night. I haven't had an answer in writing yet. What is our oldest outstanding EHCP, and how are we addressing those backlog of EHCPs? I know there are 3 different teams. I know we've got one looking at the most recent ones, and we're going to see, obviously, those completed in a faster time period. I'm very happy about that, but that cannot be at the detriment to those backlog cases, and we cannot have people feeling like the message is, you will have to wait, because that's just not acceptable. And then a question to Councillor Golby on the local area partnerships. I'm lucky enough to be part of the Northampton South Local Area Partnership. Unfortunately, regularly, I'm the only councillor in attendance. In fact, last meeting, I was the only councillor in attendance. How are we going to monitor the progress of the lapse, and how are we going to monitor how successful their makeup
30
are?
seconds.
How successful their makeup is? And is it now time, we're some way into the lapse, that we have a look at thinking about how they're structured and who is attending them? Because I would like some colleagues around the table with me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Thank you. I can't answer on the oldest backlog, but I will make sure that I ask Ben when he returns next week. He's away at the moment, and I will let you know straight away. But I do know that we have split into 2 teams now. One team is doing the more recent applications, and one whole team is working on the backlog in conjunction with each other, because I don't want those people who've been waiting longest to be waiting even longer. This is a debate that we did have quite a while ago when we set this up, and I insisted that we had a dedicated team on the backlog, so that they are going through. But as we have mentioned, that there are a number of other people involved in us producing these plans, so there are waiting games for other places as well. It's not just our organisation. That's an excuse, I know, but I will let you know about the oldest. But definitely those on the backlog are not being jeopardised because of the ones in the more recent queue.
Thank you. Councillor Golby.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the question, Emma. Actually, this week I've asked directors if we can have a review of the lapse to see how effective they are, whether they're focused enough and they're actually delivering the outcomes we need. I think the meetings perhaps do need a bit of a twist if we need to get better engagement from members, or to get members feeling like they're getting something out of it. I know the timing point is an issue, because we need to try and time it so we get the right partners round the table. But nevertheless, I think they've been a very good thing, particularly how we're trying to orientate services around the lapse. But I think it is time to have a good review and change a few things if we need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask questions to Fiona Baker and also Dan Lister. So I'll start with Dan first. So Dan, the Market Square budget has cost 50% more. Whilst I'll accept that the budgets can accumulate further costs, etc., through cost of living, cost of price for material, etc., 50% I think is too much. Would you, at the beginning, or when this project was proposed, would you have accepted 50% extra cost at the end of it? Would you have proceeded with that? And secondly, because it's 50% over on cost, is that a possible suggestion for a scrutiny to look at those costs, look into it? So do you want to answer that first, or shall I ask the other questions? Right, so the next question's for Fiona Baker. So I want to ask Fiona, and I want to ask the council to really listen to these parents, like from tonight, because most are not. They have lived and experienced and have been treated horrendously by West Northants Council. Clearly improvements haven't been happening because it's there in the Ofsted report. So what I'm suggesting to Fiona Baker is, and to this meeting, that the council extends an invitation to the West Northants Send Action Group to make full presentation.
Clark, regrettably, 15 seconds.
Before all councillors of this, and talk about their experiences of this council so that councillors can have a better understanding of the problems. And also I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Emma Roberts, and I wonder whether Fiona Baker will acknowledge the work that she does with a lot of our SEND families.
Thank you,
for
Councillor
these
Clark.
challenging and complex cases.
Could we now
well done,
go
Emma.
to Councillor Dan Lister?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Clark, yes, on the pricing of the market, I mean, obviously, scrutiny can look at whatever it wants and request whatever it wants. It's not my say-so. So the pricing on the market was done before COVID.
Could you move your mic more
Certainly,
forward,
Chair.
please?
Yeah, the price on the market was done before COVID, before the pandemic. So the pricing that we've got now is the quoted price afterwards. So it's not technically an overspend. It's the budget was different from when it was first created in 2018. And then there was, as we know, significant cost changes and things like that. But scrutiny can look at whatever they want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baker to answer the question.
Thank you. The Send Action Group did in fact have a meeting with our leader, Councillor Adam Brown, just a couple of weeks ago. They came in and had quite a lengthy meeting with him to add their views to him so that he could understand fully what their problems were. I fully applaud Councillor Roberts on the work that she does, and I do just as many cases myself. So we are all working as hard as we can together to make a difference to these families. It's not a one-off thing. We all realise that they are struggling and they need our help. I do applaud Councillor Roberts for the work that she's doing with the Send Action Group, but we also do have another group of families where are there very large number of families, and I do say that they were one of the speakers that was actually cut off the list tonight because they asked to speak on the Send paper and were not allowed because of the 3, and obviously we didn't realise the quirks that we could have put them in somewhere else.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just moving on from that. Optics.
Could I ask you to hold on? We have a point of order. Councillor Clark. Could you state the point of order in the Constitution, please?
What I had suggested was that the council...
I can't hear the reference to the point. Thank you.
Right, so the question that I asked...
I'm not the question. Could you quote the... you're raising a point of order. Could I have the reference number for the point of order, please?
I've not had a question answered. I don't feel I've had a question answered. I want to ask for us to invite the SEND group to come back in and present to all councillors, not just Adam Brown.
Please may I ask you to respect the order. Thank you. Could you continue, Councillor Barrett?
Yeah, thank you. Just a question to the leader and to Councillor Baker as well. Just regards to optics and moving forward, because to have that many people cut off and not able to speak, optics matter. Coming off one of the worst reports you'll see a local authority get, it just doesn't sit well with me that has happened tonight. So can I ask from Councillor Brown and Councillor Baker that there's a review into that moving forward, so we can ensure that we're people first and we're not laden with item after item and policy after policy. We've got to go from a people first perspective, and that optics really do matter in politics.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Can I ask who your question was to again? Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thank you to Councillor Barrett for his question. Clearly, these decisions ultimately rest with the chairman, but whilst I think it's very important that members are kept very strictly to time, I think there is a strong case for some flexibility to be shown to members of the public, especially when they wish to speak on such an emotive subject.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Been like that for half an hour.
Councillor Baker.
What's she saying?
Oh, it's your turn.
As Councillor Brown said, I had absolutely no input at all on the proceedings for this evening's meeting. I was just as new to it this evening as all of you were, but I fully agree with Councillor Brown's sentiments that when we've got members of the public who've got very emotive subjects they want to discuss with us or tell us about, they should be given the time they need in order to explain their story. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Do I call Councillor Richard Sotheby-Timms? Councillor Richard Sotheby-Timms. Thank you.
Point of order.
What's the reference number, please?
Well, I don't know that. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that.
If you've been chucked out of the queue again, Mr. Hanser will ask.
Point of order is, this system is not working.
Could I ask you to take a seat, please, and I will answer your question. Now, I'd like councillors to bear with us. We are trying to use the technology. I am taking all your points on board. Unless we try change, we can't introduce change. The intention is good of making this chamber more open and more efficient, because we have a lot on the agenda tonight. Could I ask Councillor Richard Sotheby-Timms?
Yes, I've got one question for Adam. In regards to housing, especially with the housing associations, could we tighten up the controls on the work carried out, especially on non-standard construction? The other question I've got with Phil Larratt, I just wanted to double check where the path between Overthorpe and Banbury stands, because children are walking to and from school. Now, I got told that was on the active travel, but I would like that clarified, and also and I would like to see if I can put the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit between Banbury.
Could I ask you to give respect to your fellow councillor who's trying to speak? Thank you. Continue. Councillor Richard Salisbury-Timms.
That's all right. It's just clarity, whether, because I know they meet every month, so it's basically a 30-mile-an-hour limit between Banbury and Walkworth because of the people walking and cycling down that road.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you. In response to Councillor Salisbury-Timms, housing associations are entirely separate, not-for-profit entities. However, they do come under the purview of the regulator for social housing. Our private sector housing enforcement team can also take action in extreme cases. However, the simplest route is often just to speak to officers within WNC. We have very good relationships with the major housing associations across the district, and in my experience, they're usually very responsive. Obviously, some situations do fail to meet the standards we would expect of our housing associations, but happy for you to contact me if you're not getting a response out of the people who you'd normally expect to get a response from.
Thank you. We have 12 minutes remaining of this section. I call Councillor Hack to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to Councillor David Smith. In December, it was revealed WNC was sitting on 83 million pound of unspent of Section 106 money. We were told this was primarily due to the former Borough Council contract not being digitalised, and that work was being carried underway to solve this. Has this project now been completed, and have we had to return any of the Section 106 funds as a result of this oversight? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question, Madam. It's
nothing to do with you, it's Councillor Smith.
I think it was Councillor Smith had the question.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
I didn't hear a question for me.
So there's the 106 work has been huge, as I think we all recognise. We're drawing quite close to actually being in a position to actually making those payments out. I don't know of any returned funds, but I will check and I will come back to you with a written response. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Councillor Wendy Randall.
Thank you, Chair. I've got three questions. First one will be to Councillor Longley. In your report, you state that the Daventry District Council offices at Lodge Road have now had their marketing programme completed and that they are engaged with NHS about providing GP space within the property. So please tell me why you want to spend huge amounts of money locating the job centre across the road into Daventry Leisure Centre when they could just stay where they are. Surely this will be much better for staff and residents. For Councillor Brown, great that you're working with Rugby World Cup and Northampton Saints for Women's World Rugby. Will you be working with Brackley, Daventry, Northampton and Toaster Town Council and sports clubs to fund from our community fund some big screens so that everybody has the opportunity to watch the event? Councillor Baker, I said when we were in our first year as Shadow Cabinet that the Cabinet allowances were very generous. The response I got was that it was a very responsible role, and I replied that's okay, but when things go wrong, I expect the buck stops with that member. I'm sure you would have seen my recent press release on the SEND Ofsted report, and we have heard some heartbreaking stories from SEND parents this evening on how we are failing our young people. They're either not in any education at all or in the wrong settings. So I'm asking you once again, are you going to resign?
Councillor Randall, 30 seconds.
Right, Councillor Langley.
Yeah.
Longley, sorry.
With an O, but I call all sorts of things. There's two ways, two issues here. It may get sold, it may get leased. Still up in the air, and I wouldn't like to say which is going to go at this stage, but I know I'd like it to go, but we'll see. And in both cases, whenever you're dealing with a property of any consequence, really, you need vacant possession, and that's really the option. If somebody's coming along to buy it, they got somebody still there, not good. You want vacant possession, and then the property goes on the market to either sold or it's leased according, and that's why. Chair, whilst I'm on my feet, I haven't answered Winston's question yet, and I'm very conscious.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah. Winston, I haven't got a clue what is the answer. Pest control, I don't actually think it's in my portfolio, but I would check it out, and if it is, I'll deal with it, but I don't believe it is. If not, I'll tell you where we'll direct you. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Baker.
To do anything? Thank you. My answer is no, I won't be resigning. I have the full support of my colleagues, the whole of the team in the Education Department. And if you notice when we read the Ofsted report, they actually did say that they were happy with the leadership, of which I am one. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Julie Davenport.
Oh, no, I've lost it now. Right,
Oh,
we're here.
Councillor Brown.
Oh, no. No, sorry, everybody.
You have a third.
I needed a training course on this, just saying. So, first one for Adam. Really pleased you heard from the Deputy Prime Minister. The question I've been asked most about is planning reform. Residents being concerned. Have you heard anything? And will you please share it with us? I also wrote to you earlier about the Frank Bruno Foundation. I do know of boxing clubs that do pay peppercorn rent, so I'm just interested to know the difference with Frank's. And also Section 106, I did say years ago that there were millions missing from Section 106. So when I read it in the Chronicle, I wasn't surprised. Now, I know that the enforcement officers have been working long and hard to try and get this sorted. So my question is, when will that be done? And when can we get our mitts on our missing money in for cotton, please, because we've had nothing. The other thing is with customer service, like I said, Councillor Hallam is brilliant, but he can only do so much. He can help me. He's very quick, fastest finger.
Councillor Hallam,
Dan Lister.
Davenport, 30 seconds.
Okay, Dan Lister is catching up when it comes to answering me. In fact, they'll soon be answering a question before I ask it. No, well, I haven't seen it, have I, you see? And also for Councillor Longley, can you please give £100,000 to Councillor Breeze to work on trees?
Councillor Brown.
Thank you. I'll take Councillor Davenport's questions first of all. No, I haven't received anything from MHCLG as yet with details on the planning reforms. Like many people, I have concerns about the potential loss of not just local control, but local input into key planning decisions. So it will be interesting indeed to see what changes are made to the National Planning Policy Framework and other key planning regulations by central government. I think that local planning decisions are often better planning decisions, and planning decisions being taken by mandarins in Whitehall would deeply concern me. In terms of the Frank Bruno Foundation, Councillor Lister has picked that up and already written to Simon Bowers, and the customer service side of things is, on an ongoing journey towards getting to where we want it to be. Officers are working extremely hard to get the resource and the processes in place that will mean that those call times come down, and we're meeting the expectations of our customers. Councillor Randall, I'm delighted that in terms of training bases and team hotels, we've got a really equitable spread of locations across West Northamptonshire for the Women's Rugby World Cup. So we've got Bugbrook, Daventry, Towcester, Moulton Park, Moulton, all involved in the hosting of teams for the Rugby World Cup. More than happy to work with town councils and look at potential funding for big screens to make sure that this can be a festival for the whole of West Northamptonshire, and we can get as many people as possible celebrating a global event coming to our neck of the woods.
Thank you. Councillor Lister?
I don't think there was a question for me.
There wasn't. Okay.
Well, I said we've dealt with Frank Bruno already, so I think that was the only bit.
I heard your name mentioned. I thought you'd asked a question of Dan Lister. Okay. David. Councillors.
So I missed
Councillor
that,
Smith.
so apologies. So could you just zing it to me again?
That they're working on to show where all the Section 106 money should have gone. because we want our money, please.
I'll give you a written response along with Councillor Hack around 106 monies because it's complex, but we're getting there, but I'll come back to you on that. Thank you.
Councillor Stone.
Thank you. I've got a question for Councillor Lister. Councillor Lister, what will you be doing to make sure that the Market Square and the town centre are family friendly, particularly after 5 p.m. in the afternoon? And I've got a question for Councillor Golby. Councillor Golby, in the last few months, 3 reports have been issued nationally that I have found extremely alarming. So one is about the use of modern slavery to staff adult social care, domiciliary care and private providers, residential care. Another report that's really alarmed me is that there's been nationally an increase in maternal deaths, and this has disproportionately impacted Black mothers and Asian mothers. Alongside of that, there's been a report saying there's been quite a substantial increase in the deaths of 0 to 5-year-olds. That has particularly impacted Black babies and toddlers and Asian babies and toddlers. So my question around those is, could we have some data about those issues as they're impacting us in West North Hants? And my last question to you is, I think it's really, really important,
Councillor Stone, 30 seconds.
that we track poverty levels in West Northamptonshire. So I would like to know, particularly, how many children are living in poverty, how many were living in poverty 4 years ago, and how many are living in poverty now. And Madam Chair, can I just say, I find the constant interruptions to tell us what we could see on the screen really irritating.
I will take that note on board. Councillor Lister in response.
Thank you, Chair. Market Square, yeah, I mean, the increased lighting, the increased CCTV is around, yeah, we need to fix the antisocial behaviour problem in the town. But we've got things like STAT coming on board that will bring more families into the town. We've got the fountains that we want to encourage children to come in and play, as well as the Heritage Park that we've got coming in further down the road as well. But, you know, I'd be really pleased to work with the police and the Police and Fire Commissioner to bring forward issues to resolve with antisocial behaviour and with policing and the problems that we've got in the town. So perhaps I'll email our Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner and we can get together and work that out.
Thank you. Councillor Golby.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you for the question. So on Councillor Soane's 3 reports, the use of modern slavery, maternal deaths and deaths of 0 to 5-year-olds, I will request in Black ethnicity, I will request some data. I'm sure there is some. I do know that, again, I refer to an event I was at this morning talking about suicide prevention in males. I do know there is a paucity of data around some of the ethnicity of some groups affected by that issue. So I wouldn't be surprised to find out that there is an issue with some data here, but nevertheless, I will request that. On the data around tracking poverty, I will check that again. I do know, for example, the local insight data that all of the priorities and things that we've been using in our labs is incredibly detailed and is very granular down to the lower super output areas within all of our patches. And for example, in my patch in Dustin, there's 3 lower super output areas of which all that data is collected. So I will find that out for you, Councillor Stone. And as an anecdote, another point, I requested that area specific to Dustin, not just the LAP area, and the amount of information that we do have access to is quite incredible. So I will check that out for you and pass that on.
Councillor Golby, 30 seconds.
Thank you, Councillor Golby. We have now utilised the time for this part of the agenda. Anyone who hasn't had a question answered, please email it to the relevant Cabinet member. I now ask the Council to receive the reports from Cabinet members and record the decision from the Cabinet meetings held on the 16th of April, 7th of May and 11th of June. Do I have the assent of the meeting? Yeah. Agreed. I will now go to item 9 on the agenda, revenue monitoring provisional outturn, and I will invite Councillor Malcolm Longley to introduce the report and move the proposal. Oh, no.
Right. Okay, we're on. Right, well, thank you, Chair. The best reference to the outturn is taken. Shall I?
Do they?
Shall I let the room calm down a bit here?
Oh.
Chair, do you want me to carry on?
Pardon? Could
You
you hold on a moment and I'll take monitoring officer advice? Right, okay. I understand that the tradition is to have a break after that item. I wasn't aware of that and I apologise. So we will take a break.
All right.
Can I ask you to be back here for... Right. Hold on. Everyone was standing. I didn't realise you were standing for a point of order. So could I request your point of order?
Thank you, Chair. Oh, I'll sit down. So it appears now we're about to go to a break, but even if we weren't, I think the guillotine is actually quite fast approaching us in accordance with the Constitution. I'd just like to understand if the meeting is continuing longer, because that matters for my childcare arrangements, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
I will... we will break now for 10 minutes. I'll see you back here at 2040, and I will discuss the break with the monitoring officer. Okay, we're at item 9 on the agenda. I will be looking at the guillotine arrangements at 9:15, so we can see how much business we can get through until we get to the guillotine arrangements. I've taken on board all your comments during the break about the new system, and we will look to change a few things. But if I can ask Councillor Longley to speak, please.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Chair? No, I think I've known you probably about 10 years, and it's
Yeah.
Longley, not Langley.
No, I know. Apologies.
Anyway, right, I'll press on because what we're looking at here is last year's results. Now, I will point out to everybody we're now in the 4th month of our current year, i.e. a third of the way through, can you believe? So I'll be very brief. The key point is that we came out with this very small underspend, which means we've got 3 years balance books for the first period. And that's really the main thing. If you look at the chart on page 189, it's self-explanatory. I've been through it time and time again for everybody. And it just shows what a difficult year it was with children, adults, and balanced by contingencies and various other things, and 1 or 2 good operations in place and places like that. So that's the story. If I move on, the HRA is in balance, and I didn't, Chair, propose to go in any greater depth than that unless anybody specifically wants detail, and normally that's best handled outside the meeting anyway, in my experience. So I'll terminate at that so we can get more of the business done before we turn down. Thanks.
Thank you. I invite Councillor Parker to second the paper. Is Councillor Parker? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, nothing to add, but I reserve my right to speak, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any members of the council who wish to comment on this item? Councillor Harris.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just one comment, really, I'd like to make, and I guess it's a recommendation more than anything else. I note your comments, Councillor Longley, with an O, that there has been a small underspend, but of course that's because of the approach that's been taken to capitalise some of the highway repairs to effectively offset that. So I would encourage my place scrutiny committees, committee members maybe to take a look at that. I note that the audit report suggests that it's expedient in the short term, but I hope that that's not something that we can contemplate continuing in the long term. So I'll encourage my colleagues, one here on my left, who is on place, maybe to just take that forward as an item to look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keith Holland-Delamere.
Yeah, so again, I recognise the continuous hard work of the finance team to help balance the budget every year. That general contingency is very good, and these recommendations for capitalisation will definitely put us in the balanced position. I think I'm going to draw attention to the LGA peer review about the long-term budget gaps, and I think we really do need a cross-party sort of working group to look at those challenges, because I think the reality is we can capitalise this, we can contingency that, but the reality is we've got a challenge with our reserves, and we've got to have a forward plan as a cross-party to look at those challenges and making relevant representations to the new Labour government about funding for West North Hampshire.
Thank you. Councillor Julie Davenport. Right.
Next.
Can you press your mic? Done.
I'll sit on my hands. I heard the word underspend, so then my question still sits with Councillor Longley that I didn't get an answer from. Can you please give Councillor Breeze 100,000 to sort out the trees?
Councillor Wendy Randall.
Thank you. I notice on page 189 that you've put the cost of the 23-24 pay award was being greater than forecast at the time of setting the budget. So I just wanted to say I was actually pleased to see that it wasn't the percentage for the higher earners was negotiated and was less than it was for the bottom earners, because if it hadn't have been, it would have been a lot more than was anticipated. So my question is, when you are forecasting that pay review, how do you do that if you don't know where the percentages are going to be set?
Thank you. With there being no other councillors to speak, I will ask Councillor Parker, does he wish to say anything?
No, nothing further to add. Thanks, Chair.
I will go back to Councillor Longley to respond to the debate.
Right, okay, deal with Jonathan first. No, the £10 million that's gone on the highways, that'll come up later anyway. But that was not the issue that made the difference at the year end. The point that made the issue at the year end, where capitalisation, was the one that Keith brought up. So it's still capitalisation, it's no big deal, but they are. But yeah, take it scrutiny, very pleased to do so, anytime. And now that was on your 10 million there, Keith, thanks for pointing that out. The long-term gap, I don't worry too much about these. The reason for being, my own experience in industry, if you can get next year's right, you're doing darn way. You know, to get the longer term you go, the more rocky it becomes in predicting. And what you tend to find is that you chuck everything, including the kitchen sink, in the future, just in case. Business rates is a classic example. That takes 15 million out of the stroke, you know, and so on and so on. And so there's all sorts of things. So I wouldn't get too concerned about that. You've got to pay attention, but it's not the worry immediately appears, in my experience. Right, £100,000 for trees. Well, I've got nothing in my back pocket tonight, as I said to Rebecca. And the way this works is that Rebecca has a budget, and if she wants to spend it on whatever she wants to spend it, that's a matter for Rebecca, not me. And when she's spent her budget, that's it. Then that is a matter for me, because you won't get any more. And, but it may well be, that's on the revenue side, it may be that it'd be a capital item. Now, in that case, there's a quite clear route to capital, in that you put up a project, you go to the capital, get it board. If it's a good project, it gets it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So it's a well-trodden path, and everybody wants to spend money on trees. So you're off to a good start, but you've got to go through the process. No back pockets, I'm afraid. Doesn't exist, sadly. Finally, when it pay reviews, well, if only I could get it right every year. What's inflation next year? What's it, you know? And this is you agonise over that number, and when you put in the budget, it's dead easy to put what the price increase or the cost increase is likely to be, because it's set by government and capped. So you know the question is, do you go to the max or not? That's the question. When you come to costs, much more tricky, and you've got to make a judgment. And we made a judgment, and inflation was much more aggressive than we thought, and there they are. You know, that's it. And next year it might be less than we thought. You know, and so if only we could get it spot on, but I doubt we ever will. All right. Thanks, Chair. That's me done.
Thank you. I will now ask councillors to go to the vote. Have we all voted? No issues? Then the motion is passed. We go to item 10 on the agenda, I note that we probably get this item completed, but then we will have to go to the guillotine arrangements. So I invite Councillor Fiona Baker to introduce the report and move the proposal.
Thank you, Chair. This is the report for the funding of the salary for our new Director of Children's Services, which is very much needed role in our workspace. We've been without one for a while now, and it's a very important job, and we have certainly realised the gap that has been left when our previous interim director did leave our service. So I'm very pleased to see that Mel Barrett will be joining us on the 1st of August, so that's very soon. And this is coming to Cabinet, one for the cost of the salary, and also because this is a strategic position, so therefore has to come to full council, not just to Cabinet. I'm delighted to welcome Mel into our fold because she has a great deal of experience on SEND in other councils, and I'm sure that will be very beneficial to us to help us understand how we can improve our service more quickly than we have done to date. So that's about all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I invite Councillor Mark Hughes to second the proposal. Mark.
Yes, thank you, Chair. No, Mel was a very impressive interview. All the panel were thoroughly impressed with her approach, her previous experiences and the concepts of them. I mean, we'd be very optimistic about future outcomes of our young people. So delighted to second. Thank you.
Thank you. I call on Councillor Adam Brown.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm really looking forward to welcoming Mel to West Northamptonshire Council, and she very importantly comes with a wealth of expertise in the SEND arena, which, as we know, is of critical importance to the Council at this moment in time. So I also want to pay thanks to everyone involved on the appointments panel. I think we worked well together. We had excellent deliberations about the merits of all the candidates that we saw on the day, and I've every confidence that we've made a really positive appointment for our residents.
Councillor Sally Beardsworth.
Okay, thank you. Almost pressed it then. Oh gosh, old habits die hard. Can I just say a welcome that we're going to have a new Director of Children's Services, and it's particularly good that obviously she's dealt with SEND children before, because we really need to establish a good working relationship with all our SEND families. So I think that's a good thing. I just hope she doesn't share the frustration that the last Director of Children's Services had with working with the Trust. Thank you.
Thank you. There being no other speakers, I will go back to Councillor Mark Hughes to see if he wishes to respond.
Press my button as well.
Oh, I've just seen Councillor Randall
You.
has asked to speak.
Am I on? Thank you. Okay. My group will be voting to accept the appointment for the Director of Children's Services, but also in that paper that hasn't been mentioned is about to improve the increase in salary for the 7 Tier 3 assistant directors, as it will take their salary over 100,000. I understand that we have to pay in line with other councils, but the Labour group do have concerns about whether we are becoming a top-heavy council, especially when we haven't got enough staff to answer phone calls. We've got staff with children who can't take any holiday during the school holidays because there aren't enough staff to man the desk, and many staff that we do have are on burnout.
Thank you. I will go back to Councillor Mark Hughes as I interrupted his response. You spoke, okay. I will now go back to Councillor Fiona Baker.
Thank you. Certainly in the children's service, I don't believe that we're top heavy. We have an assistant director for each of the very important roles that we offer, and I don't think that that is an issue there, certainly. And I'm not aware of anybody that's not able to take holiday, but I will inquire into that on Monday. I would just like to add that with this appointment, we will be a council then that has permanent staff in the Children's Trust, the education mainstream and the SEND area of our work for the first time in a very long time. No interims at all. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now ask members to vote. That recommendation is carried. Thank you. I think we have time. Point of order, Councillor Breeze.
That we see through as a council this evening, as work cannot proceed unless it's gone through the council. So I'd like to propose that, as I think most members of the public have left, that it's within your gift, Chair, to bring item 20 forward, and so that the council considers it this evening.
I'll just confer with the section. Right, I understand if you've moved that motion, you will need a seconder. We have Councillor Brown as a seconder. Can we vote on it? Yes. Could I now put it to the vote?
They second it.
Yes, Councillor Brown has seconded it. So, all those in favour? All those against? No. Councillor Irving-Swift, have you got a point of order?
Yes, in the papers we have the appointment of the two independents, the two new independents at audit, and that has to be agreed at full council. So I would like that to be done also tonight, because otherwise the very good candidate we have will not be able to
I will just take advice from the
Yes,
monitoring officer.
thank you. It needs to be at full council.
For dealing with each of the items, we will still come to each of the items under the guillotine
Right.
procedure.
I've just been told we will still come to each of the items under the guillotine procedure, but we have had a proposal and a seconder, and we've voted in favour of that. So could I now ask any members of the public or the press to remove themselves from the chamber? Do we have any? Then what? out that I must now draw to the Council's attention Rule 10 of the Council Procedure Rules. It is past 9:15 and it is my view that we will not be able to deal with the outstanding matters of business by 9:30. Rule 10 requires that all outstanding matters will now be put to the vote without further debate. This means I will not allow recorded votes on these items. I will ask the Democratic Service Manager to ask members to vote on whether each item should be accepted, rejected, referred, deferred or withdrawn. These options will be presented to Council in order. Should there be a majority in favour of a particular course of action, such as to accept a recommendation or motion, then the remaining options will not be read out. Should the Council vote to refer a recommendation or motion, I will ask for a member to propose the appropriate body for that item to be referred to. Okay, so I will ask the Chairman, ask Democratic Services Manager to ask the Council to vote on each of the remaining items.
Thank you, Chairman. I will use the electronic voting system for members' ease, but if anybody wants to propose one of the alternatives, I'd ask that they show. So the next item I've got on my list is item 11, Highways Capital Programme. I'll start the vote now.
Yep. That's accepted.
The next item is item 12, Royal and Derngate Theatre rack remediation works. Starting the vote now.
Accepted.
Item 13, updates to the Constitution. Starting the vote now. Thank you.
Accepted.
Item 14, Audit and Governance Committee Annual Report. Thank you.
Accepted.
Item 15, Audit and Governance Committee Appointment of Independent Members. Sorry? Oh.
Accepted.
Sorry about that. I thought I'd had.
Oh, apologies. Which one are we on?
15.
Accepted.
Thank you. I don't think I can stop the vote on that one.
Item 16.
Yeah, I can't stop. Okay, item 16 is the annual report of the Democracy and Standards Committee.
Accepted.
Thank you. And then we have two motions. So motion 1, proposed by Councillor Wendy Randall. If you want.
It's not coming up.
Councillor Randall.
Right, just a minute. I'd like to withdraw the motion, please.
Thank you, Councillor Randall.
So that one is withdrawn. And then I have got motion 2, proposed by Councillor Jonathan Harris. Yeah, Jonathan.
Yeah, we'd like to withdraw the motion as well, please. Thank you.
Is that it? Is that the finish? So I can
No.
close the meeting. Thank you all. I'd now like to close the meeting and thank you for bearing with me at my first meeting and for the introduction of the technology, which we will learn from this evening and we will implement better at the next meeting. Thank you. Well, they got their